What are the goals of your country's government for promoting access to food? Do you see that they are primarily focusing on production, or are they perhaps trying to stimulate citizens to consume more healthy or sustainable diets? When governments decide to promote access to food, a first choice that they have to make is what are their precise policy goals. Of course, promoting access to food is an overarching goal in itself. The important point here is that it can be approached in different ways. In this clip, we focus on three generic policy goals governments most often use: promoting access to food by focusing on production, by focusing on health, and by focusing on socio-economic aspects. Which goal or goals the government decides to focus on has major implications for how much and what kind of foods are produced and consumed within a country. If the central goal for promoting access to food is production, governments see access mainly as a matter of the availability of sufficient and cheap food. The underlying idea is that by enhancing the productivity and production levels of farmers and food processors, the supply of food will increase, resulting in more and cheaper food available to consumers, who can then buy more food for every euro, dollar, yen or rupee they spend. Another option is that food is imported from abroad. When approaching access as a matter of production, governments will mainly use agricultural, trade and innovation policies to deal with access to food. Of course, governments that pursue this goal have a point. When no or insufficient food is available, people will not have access to it. At the same time, this goal has also been criticized, because even in places where sufficient food is available, groups of people may lack the resources or social position to acquire it. When approaching access to food as a matter of health, governments are primarily concerned about what types of food end up on our plates, or, in other words, on the food choices that we make. In many developed and emerging countries, obesity has become a big problem. It is estimated that there are now more overweight than underweight people worldwide. Because obesity is for a large part caused by easy access to large quantities of unhealthy food, such as sodas, fast food and meat, governments can decide to discourage the consumption of such foods. If you think about it, this is not unique. Many governments also discourage the consumption of other products that they consider unhealthy or unsustainable, such as cigarettes or gasoline. This is often done by increasing taxes. There is also another side of health as a goal. People have insufficient access to nutritious food. In 2014, the World Health Organization estimated that 2 billion people suffer from vitamin and mineral deficiencies. In such a case, governments may decide to intervene by promoting access to nutritious food, for example by enhancing the nutritional value of staple crops, such as rice or wheat. When focusing on health as a policy goal, governments mainly use public health, education, innovation and economic policies. In the third part of this module, we will further discuss how they do that exactly. Lastly, when promoting access to food by focusing on socio-economic aspects, governments are primarily concerned about the social position of individuals or groups of people. The argument is then that a lack of access to food may result from a disadvantaged socio-economic position, or even outward exclusion and discrimination. Governments can try to tackle these problems by stimulating economic growth, so that the purchasing power of people increases. They may also choose to redistribute wealth by using social policies. A third option is to address underlying problems of exclusion and discrimination through emancipatory policies. For example, by providing these groups of people with privileged access to jobs and education. Within these three general goals, governments can have more specific goals. For example, within the goal of enhancing production, governments may decide to focus specifically on the position of small subsistence farmers, so-called smallholders. Or, instead, they may see most potential in stimulating large-scale and high-tech farming. However, in this module, we will restrict our story to the three generic goals of production, health and social aspects. You will now understand that the policy goals that governments choose lead to different kinds of action, and therefore affect our access to food in different ways. Of course, governments may pursue more than one goal at the same time, as often multiple problems exist next to each other. Still, we often see that one approach is dominant over others, as will be illustrated in the next clip when we zoom in on the 3 concrete cases. Especially the goals of health and social-economic aspects are often neglected. What is important to remember is that choosing between policy goals involves making fundamental political choices. Do we want to produce more and cheaper food? Or is the quality and safety of food more essential? Do we want to tell people what they should eat? Or are people themselves responsible for making these decisions? As we will see, governments answer these questions in different ways, based on their political visions and preferences.